Hi, I'm Chad with Move for a Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about the difference between a tonic and a root note. So I wanted to make this lesson because in previous lessons, I made a mistake and called something a root note when it was really a tonic. I especially did this in our series, Music Theory for Guitar. So right off the bat, I'm going to explain the difference between a tonic and a root note, and then I'll talk about why or how I made that mistake. So first, we'll start with the tonic. And the tonic is the first note or the first chord of a scale. And the mistake I made previously was talking about the first note of a scale. So in this lesson, that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the first note of a scale. So for example, on your screen is a G major scale. So to build a major scale, you just start on the first note and you go whole step, half step, whole step, half step. If you don't know anything about major scales, it's not really important for this lesson, but if you want to learn more, you can watch our series, Music Theory for Guitar. So on your screen, like I said, it's a G major scale, which gives you G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. The first note of the scale, which is G, is your tonic. So G is the tonic of the G major scale. And you can see the octave G is a tonic as well. I have that in red. Anytime you come across a G in the G major scale, that's a tonic of the scale. But it's considered the first note of the scale because if you're building the scale, no matter what G you started on, you'd have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, back to G. That would be the G major scale. And you can also think about the tonic as what the sound revolves around. So G is really the sound that this whole scale revolves around. And it's what everything pulls back to. So if I play G and then go through the scale, everything is pulling me back to G. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to play a G major scale, but I'm going to pause when I come to the F sharp. And you're going to hear how much it wants to go back to that G to resolve. And you'll probably be able to hear it in your head. You'll probably be able to actually sing out this G note because we're so used to the sound of a major scale. And this is what everything is pulling towards, the G, which is the tonic. So here's that example. So if I was to write the G major scale out in intervals, but drew the first interval as a tonic, the scale degree, it would look like this. You'd have tonic, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, back to tonic. Or you could say tonic 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, back to tonic. That's the proper way to mark the first note of a scale. In the Music Theory for Guitar series, I marked it as a root. But root is actually not correct. I'm going to talk about what a root is just in a second. But for now, just realize that the first degree of a scale is a tonic, it's not a root. Another thing I want to clear up that I probably wasn't very clear on in the Music Theory for Guitar series, but it's not as big of an issue, and it was more just how I worded it, but it might have been confusing if you run across this, is that the tonic, and I called it the root back then, but the tonic is not an interval name. Interval names are major second, major third, perfect fourth, and so on. Tonic is actually a scale degree name. The interval name for the first degree of a scale is either 1 or perfect unison. So if I was just to write out all the interval names vertically right here of a major scale, your actual interval names would be, your 1 would be perfect unison, your 2 would be major second, your 3 would be major third, your 4 would be perfect fourth, your 5 would be perfect fifth, your 6 would be major sixth, and your 7 would be major seventh. Those are the interval names of a major scale. And really, when you went back to the original note in octave higher, that would be called a perfect octave. So this note, no matter what major scale you're playing, and this note are the same note names, they're just an octave apart. And again, if you don't understand that, it's not really important for this lesson. This lesson's really about the difference between a tonic and a root note. But if you want to dive into that, check out our series, Music Theory for Guitar. So those are the interval names. The scale degree names are tonic as the 1, 2 is supertonic, 3 is mediant, 4 is subdominant, 5 is dominant, 6 is submediant, 7th is leading tone. So these are degree names of scales. And don't worry about all of these for now. That's not really important for anything I'm talking about now, or even a lot of more advanced stuff. You don't necessarily have to have that memorized. For now, we're just focused on the tonic, but I wanted to explain that these here are scale degree names. These are interval names. And I just really wanted to clear that up because I probably didn't make it very clear in the music theory for guitar course. And when you're talking about a scale, you can call the first degree by its interval name, which is 1 or perfect unison, but I like calling it a tonic and representing it as a tonic. But either way works. It just depends how you want to frame it. And I've been talking about the major scale the whole time, which is the most popular scale in Western music. And like I said, it's built whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. But the tonic applies to any scale, whether it was a minor scale, whether it was a pentatonic scale. Any scale, the first degree of a scale is going to be the tonic. I just did it with the major scale since it's the most common scale in Western music and one of the most important to understand. But I want to make that clear. No matter what scale you play, the first degree of that scale is the tonic. So that's what the tonic is. Now I want to talk a little bit about the root or root note. Like I said in previous lessons, I labeled the first degree of the scale as a root, but that's inaccurate. Like I said, it's a tonic, and that was my mistake. But the other way that I explained the root in music theory for guitar was totally right, which was talking about the note that a chord is built on. So an A major chord, A is the root. A G major chord, G is the root. A C major chord, C is the root. If these were minor, A would still be the root. G minor, G would still be the root, and so on. It's just what the chord is built on. And it's represented by the name of the chord. So if you had anything even like a C major 9, C would still be your root note. It's what the chord is built on. And I don't want to get into how to build chords because that's a deep subject. And if I just try to do it quickly now, it would be confusing for those who don't understand it. So again, go watch our series Music Theory for Guitar if you're interested in that. I really dive deep into how chords are built and how they come out of scales. So now just quickly, I just want to talk about how I made the mistake, and it was really bugging me when I realized what I had done, because really I just knew that the first degree of a scale was called the root. I just knew it. I didn't question it, so I didn't even research it more. But then as I did start doing more research into other stuff, I realized I had made that mistake, so I was really wondering how I did it. But I actually started going back to a lot of stuff I learned from, and even thinking back to personal lessons that I had taken a long time ago. And people had called the first degree a root. And I even looked in books that I have still by well-respected authors and players that have labeled it the root as well. The first degree is a root in a scale. So it's obviously a really common mistake, and that's no excuse for me making it, but that's how I made it. I was taught that coming up, and then I just thought I knew it, so I didn't question it anymore. But just like anything that you learn, there's always more that you can learn, and you can always easily make a mistake, even when you know quite a bit about a certain subject. So I just wanted to make this video to fix that mistake, and also it's just an important video in general for anyone curious about the difference between a tonic and a root. And in the Music Theory e-guide, the free e-guide that we have for our series Music Theory for Guitar, I fixed it in all of those charts and diagrams. So if you don't have the updated one, you can get the updated one. If you're on our list, it'll be sent out soon if it hasn't been already as you're watching this. And if you don't know what that e-guide is, what I'm talking about, it's a free e-guide that's been really popular for us. That's attached to our popular YouTube series Music Theory for Guitar. And there's links in the description for everything if you want to go and check that out and you really want to dive deep into music theory. So thanks for watching and keep moving forward.